Welcome back to another episode of The Playbook. Should I call this the Dubai Real Estate Playbook again? Title's not important. Content is what matters. Oof, quoted. Last week's episode, I spoke about, well, for the first 60 minutes, I apologize about the audio quality. I spoke about the fact that, about my break, and I spoke about some of the things that have happened over the past few weeks and my goals for 2025 and the fact that I want to go completely all in back into real estate again. One of the aspects of me going all in real estate is speaking more about real estate when it comes to this podcast. It's the initial reason why I set up this podcast, and it's the where I think a lot of people find most of the value. And when I have people who I work with saying that, the reason that they joined the company was because of the podcast and that they're listening to the first 10 episodes again, just on repeat to try and distill some nuggets of information that they can use in their everyday life within real estate. I think I brushed over it with not enough significance in the past, instead of being like, oh, this is interesting. Like, this is actually, obviously had worked when those first few episodes, in my opinion, were very poorly. And there was lots of M's and ums. Just as I said, there was a lot of M's and ums I emmed. But so today, essentially, I'm not gonna waffle. You waffler. I'm gonna speak specifically about real estate, and I'm gonna talk about why two people given the same opportunity, one doesn't always perform, and why the other person could perform so much more than the other individual, and why exactly that is. To give a bit of context, within my company at the moment, two people started on the exact same date, two new joiners started on the exact same date, and they are given the exact same environment in terms of the things that were given to them by the company. Obviously MacBook, phone, access to data. They were going to be working in the same area. They were going to have the same training, which they did. They're going to have the same one-to-ones, which they did. They have the same facilities, the same data, the same capabilities. They have the same focus. They started on the same day, zero prior real estate experience, and the environment is the same. They also have the same mentor in the fact of an agent who's already pre-existing in the area that they're working in, who has given them a lot of help, a lot of support, a lot of guidance, because he wanted new joiners in his area to boost his reach and boost, obviously, and grow his team so that they can work better as a team, that they would have stock and it would be shared, and that they'll close deals together, which is fundamentally such an important aspect when it comes to real estate. Don't understand when people want to be a sole agent in an area by themselves with nobody else around them, because that doesn't compute. Like, I think in order to increase your chances to be successful and to be lucky, so to speak, in the sense of closing deals, you have to have a solid team around you, where if an inquiry comes in, that inquiry will be served, because one person can't have all the stock in a certain area. It's just physically not possible. You have to work amongst a good team of people who are exactly like you. You have to have a clear understanding of exactly what everybody else has, that you're doing viewings on units that aren't yours, without even the other agent, fully being aware that they're so close knit, there's such honesty and transparency within the team that somebody could close a deal with you for you without even realizing it. So people who are the lone ranger, the lone wolf within these certain areas, they're not going to reap the rewards of a good team. They only have to work one person, which is themselves. So the amount of leverage that they have when it comes to the physical leverage, because obviously a lot of the different aspects of leverage, one of them being the manual labor, essentially the time leverage, the work leverage, the physical leverage, like that will be increased exponentially by having a team of people who can pull up the slack for the things that you might not be doing. Anyways, these two individuals had seemingly the same environment, but what decided to be the differentiating factor of why one is now successful in a short period of time and one not successful and really on his last legs is what they decided to do with that opportunity. Because in a company, in a real estate company, it can be the perfect environment. Leads can be given to you, properties can be given to you, cold calls can be free. There can be unbelievable training, unbelievable support. There can be like a positive environment, a positive team, clear KPIs, clear structures, clear systems, clear behaviors that are rewarded and incentives for the behaviors that are important. But one person just decides, they don't decide, they just squeeze that opportunity for what it's worth. And for me, especially the fact when I come from a place where I studied psychology, this fascinated me because this is like the nature and nurture debate. Like nature, people who are on the nature side assume that people are born with something intrinsically that they have it. It's genetic, it's the code. And then on the nurture side, it's you can shape somebody based of their environment into whoever that they want to be, regardless of their genetic code or what they were born with. Obviously, I think the answer is the fact that there's a bit of both. How much in each camp is was highlighted to me within this one example. And just because I've got one example, I'm not going to attribute to that to the rest of the world of how it works within the nature nurture debate. But for some reason, one individual just took this opportunity and just ran with it, just absolutely ran with it, asked the right questions, was completely committed to doing it, was obsessed with the minute details of how to get better. And then the other person just doesn't seem like they're interested whatsoever in pursuing it like that. And one person is just okay with doing the bare minimum repeatedly every single day with no clear improvement on a day by day, week by week basis, no questions that are interesting. When I asked him to define his goals, I don't know. What do you mean? What do you mean goals? Okay, let's break it down. Like, okay, why do you want to do this thing? I don't know. Money. Oh, money. Is that you speaking? Is that your goal? Is that what you think is the acceptable answer? And I asked him, what behaviors do you think are important in order to achieve these goals once we finally got them out of him? I don't know. Okay. And what are your strengths? What do you mean? I don't know. What are your strengths? I don't know. I'm not an agent. No, what are your strengths intrinsically as a person? I don't know. This isn't me saying one is good or bad, one is right or wrong. It's just a clear difference between two people based off who they are as a person and how one person is just completely an employee and the other person is not. When I say one is an employee and one is not, what I mean is an employee is somebody who's okay with doing the bare minimum, clocking in, clocking out. The things outside of work are the things that are most important. No clear direction, lack of direction, no want to take any control, no clear defined goals, no introspective kind of ideas, no conscious thought of where they are, where they want to go, who they are, and what they need to improve and what they're good at. And that's obviously okay, but it's not okay in an industry where if you're an employee, you're not going to get paid because you're not getting a salary. So it's clear that this person is in the wrong industry and that he would be much more suited to an industry where he gets a basic wage, that he just pushes papers, that does the bare minimum. And obviously that's okay, but that's not the kind of person who I want in our team. That's not the kind of person who's going to be successful in real estate. They're always going to do the bare minimum and they're not going to take it because it's so hard to define exactly the reasons as to why people are successful within real estate. There's so many different factors. But I think this entrepreneur and employee mindset is one of the biggies. Like, if you refuse to think outside of the box, if you refuse to take any sort of self direction, then you will pay the price. If you refuse to actually want to get better, if you refuse to really take the locus of control internally and decide what you want to do on a daily basis, then you won't be successful, because no manager is going to tell you exactly what to do. No manager is going to pull you up being like, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? You have to do this from 9 to 12, and you have to do from this from 12 to 3, and then this from 3 to 6. It's like the minor things, like where he would be taking his full hour break, where in a meetings he's on his phone. It's just like, but then he says he wants to be successful. So it's just like, I've learned so much from that, and the nuggets of information that you can take from that if you're listening to this and in our thinking about a career in real estate is understanding that it's not like another job. It's not like a job where you clock in and clock out. It's not like any other industry. It's almost as if you're setting up your own company tomorrow, that you're the head of finance, you're the head of sales, that you're the CEO, you're the COO, you're the CFO, you're head of marketing, you're head of customer journey, and everything in between. This is a reoccurring thing that people keep speaking about, but I'm guaranteed the fact that I definitely spoke about this within my first few podcast episodes, have never heard of this in the past, is the fact that you're a business owner. Why for me that was important was it got me comfortable with the fact that I wouldn't get paid a salary. That was the way in which that I removed myself from the idea that it was uncomfortable. The thing that brought me comfort was the fact that if I'm almost a business owner wouldn't know how much they're going to make next month. A business owner won't know how much they're going to make in 2 months. So I am like them. The same rules apply. The rules of business applies, not to the company, but to myself, to my brand, to my company, to the essence. Because if I start taking marketing ideas or sales ideas from a founder of a company that could be selling fucking solar panels, then if I introduce some of the aspects that they decide to use into my business, then that actually could grow my sales, my conversion. I could use sales tactics that this person used. I could use advertising or marketing ideas from here. I could structure my day as if I did whatever. It's just like I could have worked the leads in the same way that this kind of company would, or this founder has done this. It's like there is so much possibility. There's endless capability of me to grow my own business. I have unlimited earning potentials. I just have to be smart with it, because if I close enough deals, I'll make enough money, but there's only a certain amount of time within a day. So you have to be so creative with it. You have to be obsessed with the idea that you have to try and solve these problems of, okay, now I have no money. Now the business is literally just setting up. I've got no products in the shop window. So, okay, now I'm going to have to start getting products in the shop window, because nobody knows that your business exists if you don't have anything to sell or rent. So the first order of business coming into an industry such as real estate is trying to get as much product in your shop window as possible, trying to speak to customers, trying to speak to people who will put their product in your shop window, and you will try and rent it for them, ideally with customers who walk through the door. The nice thing about leasing is that any customer who walks through the door and says that they want to lease a property, the likelihood is that they're going to lease a property. It might not be through you, but they will lease. The thing with sales is they might walk through the door and be like, I might buy today, next week, next month, 6 months from now. With tenants, with people who are looking to rent, they're going to have to rent. So why don't you just be the person with all the product in their shop window? Why don't you be the vessel and build all the stock, you alongside some people within your team? And once the people step through the door, that you give them the best service that they can, that you don't let them leave without them renting a property from you or from your colleagues, and together close a deal to get and provide so much value to that person and give them so much product information. Because it really frustrates me when people assume that this person is going to walk through the shop door, they're going to look at one product and be like, that's what I want. I'm going to rent that. That's it. Oh, it's perfect. It's like the first viewing is not going to be a close deal. So why are we just setting up viewings being like, yeah, this is going to close. I'm not going to set up any other viewings. I'm not going to problem solve this person. I'm not going to qualify them fully. I'm not going to understand exactly their pain points and what they're exactly looking for. I'm just going to hope and leave it to the universe that they're going to walk through the door. I'm going to tour them around the place and they're going to close the deal. And then we wonder why people call us glorified door openers. brokers who wait for, the lucky 1 in 100 viewings where it's a one and done are just wasting time. They're wasting their time, to be honest, because the likelihood of somebody closing from one viewing is just next to none. And then if they ghost you after the viewing, like I hear some people say, I mean, that's a you problem. That is something that you have created. You have done something to not want, not, you have done something for them not to want to speak to you again. Incompetence, pressure selling, lack of knowledge, lack of interest, number of factors. People aren't just randomly ignorant. There's a core underlying reason as to why they display their behavior. So digging deeper into the reasons as to why people display certain behavior towards you, get a good understanding of what you can improve next time. But what I'm trying to get to with this is the fact that obviously two people can take an opportunity completely differently. But how can I be the person who takes the most out of the opportunity? How can I be the person to squeeze the most out of this job and out of life itself? The answer is the self-direction that's involved. The answer is the things that you come up with in your spare times, the thing that you research in your spare time, the ideas that you think about and create, and obviously the fact of learning the rules of the game before you break them, but taking some self-direction to be like, maybe I might do it this way. Maybe if I just do it this way, this will work. Instead of just singing off the same hymn sheet, just relying on the training that you got for 2 weeks and being like, this was done in training. This is not done in training. I don't need to know it. This is not done in training. Oh, this person asked for this. This is not done in training. How am I supposed to do this? And then going to your manager and getting a one-dimensional answer is taking some control, taking some self-direction, taking some initiative, and doing things based off the way in which you think they should be done rather than what people say they should be done. And that can only come from within. No amount of telling somebody that you have to be self-directed will get them to be self-directed or take some initiative. You have to take the step first. You have to lead with action. You have to allow it to come from within. It's completely up to you. It is completely within your control. Nobody else is going to do it for you because they're so preoccupied in what they think is important within their little sphere or bubble of their life that they won't have the time. They don't have the language isn't enough in order to describe to someone or show them how to do it. You have to take the action yourself. You have to lead yourself, lead with action, take the step forward, try things within the space that are going to be hypotheses of yours and test them and find out for yourself. So a lot of it, even though the company matters, who you are as a person and what you decide to do is more important. The environment can stay the same. The environment can be amazing. The company could be amazing. But what does that mean? What does it mean for a company to be amazing if you can't take the self-direction for yourself? A good agent will be good regardless of what the company is. They will be good regardless of how good or bad the company is. They will do well regardless of how hard it is to break into the area. I'll put that in quotations. How hard it is, how saturated the market is, blah, 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 blah. The right agent will do good regardless because there's always space for good brokers. There's always space for good people. There's always space. No, I'll rewind that. There's not always space for good people. There's always good space for useful people. Because this industry and this world does not reward you based off you're a good person, unfortunately. It rewards you based off your usefulness, your contribution to the industry. And if you have what people desire and you can problem solve with them, and don't get me wrong, it's a bonus to be nice and you do reap the rewards of that, but solely relying on you being a nice person won't get you very far at all, because I've seen plenty of nice people get washed up in this industry. So that's my 2 cents on that. I think the fundamental thing here is the fact that it has to come from within. It has to be created organically from yourself, that you have to take the initiative. Don't get me wrong, it's important to be working under a mentor, working under somebody who will give you good guidance, but fundamentally a lot of it has to come from you. You have to think better, faster. You have to be stronger than the person who's mentoring you. You will be stronger than that person. You will be better than that person. That's the role of a good mentor. But all of the power shouldn't be put in this manager's or mentor's hands. You have to take self-direction yourself. Spotting that in people is a different story. And that's what I've struggled with, is like, I hire people based off what I think that they would be like, but potentially I'm measuring for the wrong behaviors. I think for me, the fundamental things that are important is a high amount of perceived intelligence, well spoken, obviously good English, a good work ethic, to be coachable, and to have a degree of self-direction and initiative. So potentially that's the way in which they'll try and measure people doing interviews going forward, like, because there's a lot of them recently. That's essentially it for this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. The real estate content is back, baby. So I will see you in the next one.